Assalamu alaikum. Good morning or good afternoon. Здравствуйте, уважаемые участники нашего очень важного мероприятия сегодня, вебинара, который посвящен креативному предпринимательскому образованию. И эта тема, конечно, сегодня очень актуальна во всем мире. И она также очень важна сегодня для сектора высшего образования в Узбекистане. И в рамках нашего проекта Creative Spark мы совместно с нашими замечательными партнерами проводим серию вебинаров, которые будут освещать те или иные аспекты креативного, предпринимательского образования и то, как сектор образования реагирует на те требования, которые выдвигает перед нами рынок труда. Эта программа осуществляется в Узбекистане в тесном партнерстве с Министерством высшего и среднеспециального образования Республики Узбекистан. И для меня большая честь предоставить слово заместителю министра высшего и среднеспециального образования Узакбою Шеймкуловичу Бегимкулову. Пожалуйста.
Ассаламу алейкум. Уважаемые участники международного вебинара, искренне рад приветствовать всех вас на этом важном мероприятии, которое Министерство проводит в тесном партнерстве с Британским советом, фондом El-Yurt Umidi и Республиканским советом по высшему образованию. Хочу выразить особую признательность Британскому совету за успешное долгосрочное сотрудничество на протяжении более чем 20 лет в области реформирования и обеспечения качества в высшем и среднеспециальном образовании. Я очень рад приветствовать участников из Великобритании, Армении, Азербайджана, Грузии, Казахстана, Украины, которые присоединились к вебинару сегодня. Хотелось бы отметить, что радикальные реформы и мероприятия во всех сферах государственной и общественной жизни, проводимые по инициативе нашего президента Республики Узбекистан, усилили чувство деловой активности у людей и расширили участие каждого гражданина в стране в государственном и общественном управлении. В нашей стране приоритетное значение придается развитию системы высшего образования. Разработанная по инициативе президента Республики Узбекистан стратегия действий по дальнейшему развитию Республики Узбекистан на период 17-21 годы придала новый импульс усилиям, направленным на совершенствование системы подготовки высококвалифицированных специалистов, педагогов и научных кадров на основе современных требований и внедрения передового зарубежного опыта. В рамках реализации целей и задач стратегии постановлением президента утверждена концепция развития системы высшего образования до 2030 года. Обозначена задача по кардинальному совершенствованию системы высшего образования, коренного пересмотра содержания подготовки кадров в соответствии с приоритетными задачами социально-экономического развития страны, обеспечения необходимых условий для подготовки специалистов с высшим образованием на уровне международных стандартов. Исходя из поставленных задач, мы уделяем особое значение обеспечению качества высшего образования и повышению конкурентоспособности в международном образовательном пространстве. Таким образом, в рамках реализации задач реформирования системы высшего образования республики решается ряд актуальных задач. Первое. Повышение уровня охвата молодежи высшим образованием. Расширение тесного партнерского сотрудничества с зарубежными научными и образовательными учреждениями. Усиление конкуренции.
У вас микрофон отключился у Запеки.
Предоставление вузам большей автономности, академической свободы и поэтапной финансовой самостоятельности. Повышение квалификации преподавательского состава и научных кадров. Разработка новых направлений в ответ на новые требования рынка труда. Тесная связь с индустрией и работодателем. Развитие навыков инновационной компетентности профессорско-преподавательского состава, исследователей и студентов. В целях реализации масштабных реформ совместно с Британским советом Только в этом году мы начали ряд новых проектов в целях поддержки задач стремительного инновационного экономического развития страны и развития социально-экономического предпринимательства. В 2018 году мы запустили новую программу Creative Spark, призванные поддержать двустороннее партнерство вузов в целях развития новых направлений в образовании, а именно в сфере творческой индустрии и социального бизнеса. На данный момент по проекту в Узбекистане создано 6 партнерств с британскими университетами: Голдсмитс, Саусбанк, Лондон Метрополитен, Лестерский университет, Университет Центрального Ланкашира и образовательным агентством Change School и People First. И таким агентством, как Change School и People First. Среди ключевых партнеров национальной программы наше министерство, фонд El-Yurt Umidi и Республиканский совет по высшему образованию, который оказывает поддержку в достижении широких целей национального развития и наращивания потенциала. Данный вебинар послужит площадкой для обмена опытом в области развития креативного предпринимательского образования, раскроет ключевые подходы в разработке новых учебных планов и программ, уделит особое внимание партнерским отношениям между работодателем и предприятием, а также ключевым факторам обеспечения и повышения качества образования. Уважаемые участники семинара, мы надеемся, что дальнейшее и долгосрочное сотрудничество в области образования с Великобританией и надежным партнером Британским советом. В заключение позвольте пожелать продуктивной работы вебинару, а вам, его участникам и гостям, вижу здесь много наших добрых друзей и гостей, пожелать творческих успехов. Спасибо за внимание.
Спасибо большое, Узакбой Шимкулович. И со стороны Британского совета мы, конечно, очень рады такому тесному и очень важному партнерству с Министерством высшего и среднеспециального образования Республики Узбекистан.
Спасибо.
Важным партнером нашего проекта является фонд El-Yurt Umidi. И для меня большая честь предоставить слово директору фонда Адхам Шариповичу Бекмурадову. Пожалуйста, Адхам Шарипович.
Ассаламу алейкум. Здравствуйте, дорогие участники вебинара. Мне очень приятно приветствовать всех наших друзей и участников данного мероприятия, которое, я очень надеюсь, станет очень хорошей площадкой для обсуждения самых хороших идей в плане развития нашей экономики. Вы все прекрасно знаете, что наш президент Шавкат Мироманович Мирзияев, он уделяет огромное значение развитию новых идей, новых программ, новых проектов, где очень много инновационного составляющего, креативного составляющего. Поэтому я очень надеюсь, что данное мероприятие как раз будет оказывать серьезную поддержку в подготовке кадров, которые завтра будут реализовать нашу самую, будем надеяться, эффективную экономическую политику под руководством нашего президента. Дорогие друзья, это мероприятие организовывается совместно с Британским советом. Мы тоже в качестве соорганизаторов и очень благодарны Британскому совету за то, что они сегодня пригласили такой солидный состав спикеров, которые будут делиться своими знаниями и навыками, своим опытом в этой сфере. Потому что мы хорошо знаем, что Великобритания является одним из лидеров в сфере креативного предпринимательства, в сфере креативной экономики. А что касается вообще развития образования в сфере подготовки кадров для креативной экономики, то я думаю, что нам стоит учиться очень многому у британских университетов, у наших британских коллег. Дорогие друзья, организовывая это мероприятие, мне пришлось покопаться в интернете, как бы освежить свои знания относительно креативной экономики. И я нашел очень много интересного. Я вот еще раз убедился, что это такое новое, очень полезное направление для нашей экономики, где у нас очень много ресурсов, очень много возможностей, но, к сожалению, очень мало сделано. Обратите внимание, что включает в себя креативная экономика. Это реклама, архитектура, декоративно-прикладное искусство, это дизайн, мода, кино, издательское искусство, исследования, разработки. То есть все, что связано с интеллектуальным трудом. Где инновационные технологии, где инновационные идеи, разработки. То есть это сфера, где страна тратит очень мало, но зарабатывает очень много. Да, у нас очень много полезных ресурсов природных, но они все-таки имеют такую сущность заканчиваться когда-то. Поэтому в данном случае это очень полезное мероприятие с точки зрения запуска таких дополнительных резервов, мощностей у нас в стране, где мы можем много зарабатывать, при этом тратить очень мало. Я имею в виду материальных затрат. Вот смотрите, я вот нашел в интернете очень много цифр, но среди них, что мне вот импонирует, смотрите, например, в Южной Корее в отраслях креативной экономики работники зарабатывают в 2 раза больше, чем в обычных отраслях. Например, в Китае примерно 85% зарабатывают, то есть они вносят вклад в ВВП страны на 85% больше, чем традиционные отрасли. Вот смотрите, сколько у нас возможностей в этом плане, особенно в плане туризма, особенно в плане дизайна, прикладного искусства, кино. Вот, например, в последнее время мы очень много говорим о кино. Я думаю, что по итогам вот этого семинара, вебинара, я думаю, что у нас возникнут новые идеи, прикладные идеи в сфере внедрения инновационных идей и технологий в экономику. Ну, конечно, для всего этого нужно образование. Без образования, конечно, нам двигаться очень сложно. А что касается партнеров в этой сфере, мы очень правильно обратились в Британский совет, потому что они являются лидером в этой сфере. Поэтому я очень надеюсь, что сегодняшний наш вебинар внесет серьезный вклад в деле, я бы не сказал в формирование, а в развитие, потому что у нас уже какую-то основу мы уже заложили, основу преподавания в сфере креативных предметов. Вот по итогам вебинара я думаю, что многие профильные университеты, они будут разрабатывать новые учебные курсы, обновлять, если есть существующие. Мы по итогам вебинара найдем много хороших партнеров из Великобритании, с которыми мы сотрудничать в сфере, скажем, подготовки кадров для креативной экономики. Но, друзья, я думаю, что у нас время ограничено. Если говорить, конечно, очень много интересного. Я хотел бы, воспользуясь этим моментом, поблагодарить прежде всего госпожу Рэйчел Айленд, которая является директором Британского совета, госпожу Джамиля Гулямову. Она является заместителем директора, постоянным нашим инициатором. В данном случае мы с ней, нам пришлось примерно каждые 3 дня встречаться вот в таком формате, обсуждать эти вопросы. Я думаю, что мы все будем благодарны им, потому что они не только будут организовать этот вебинар, и в последующем, я думаю, что Британский совет будет поддерживать наши высшие образовательные учреждения, конечно, совместно с фондом El-Yurt Umidi в развитии преподавания таких предметов. А что касается нашего фонда, конечно, наш фонд готов в дальнейшем выделять стипендии именно в сферу подготовки кадров для креативной экономики. Мы готовы предоставлять стипендии для повышения квалификации, для краткосрочных стажировок. Ну, что касается магистратуры и докторантуры, я думаю, что это зависит от наших номинантов. Пусть они дерзают, пусть они вносят интересные проекты. Мы готовы выделять места стипендий. Поэтому я хотел бы еще раз поблагодарить организаторов, прежде всего, со стороны Британского совета. Всех наших спикеров, я их Я сейчас не буду перечислять, я думаю, что мы их еще послушаем, познакомимся с ними. И в конце хотелось бы пожелать успехов нашему вебинару и надеяться на то, что по итогам мы все-таки будем нарождать новые проекты. Не просто проводить вебинар и делать какие-то выводы, а уже выйти на конкретные новые проекты. Большое вам спасибо.
Спасибо большое, Адхам Шарипович, за ваши добрые слова и очень важный анализ той ситуации и возможностей, которые раскрываются в области креативной экономики и как они могут вносить свой вклад в развитие национальных экономик. Спасибо большое. А сейчас я хочу предоставить слово еще одному нашему важному партнеру, Республиканскому совету по высшему образованию и его председателю Уктам Пардаевичу Умурзакову. Пожалуйста, Уктам Пардаевич.
Микрофон, Стас. Микрофон, Стас, микрофон. Микрофонingizga bir qarorasiz, Стас. Uzr. Ming bor uzr, Стас.
Начинаю снова. Спасибо. Ассаламу алейкум. Good afternoon, добрый день, уважаемые участники и гости международного вебинара. Дамы и господа, мне представляет особое удовольствие приветствовать всех вас от имени Республиканского совета по высшему образованию. Это значит практически от всего многочисленного ректорского корпуса вузов страны. Как было уже сказано, данный вебинар проводится по столь актуальному вопросу и организованному фондом El-Yurt Umidi в партнерстве с Британским советом и при участии Министерства высшего и среднего специального образования и Республиканского фонда, совета по высшему образованию. Как было сказано профессором Бегимкуловым, в рамках реализации целей и задач стратегии действий по дальнейшему развитию Республики Узбекистан, а также постановлением президента республики, утверждена концепция развития системы высшего образования в Узбекистане до 2030 года, в которой обозначены задачи по кардинальному совершенствованию системы высшего образования. От системы высшего образования в настоящее время требуется создание новых механизмов, обеспечивающих качество образовательных услуг, подготовки конкурентоспособных специалистов, владеющих комплексом компетенций, которые отвечают требованиям современного рынка труда. Возникает вопрос, как же отвечать высшему образованию на запросы рынка? Какие специальности будут востребованы через 5 лет, через 10 лет, через 15 лет? Если говорить честно, то мы сами не знаем до конца, что будет наиболее востребовано на рынке труда через эти времена. Потому что настолько динамично происходят изменения в мире, и настолько информация очень динамичная и быстротечная, что это как раз-таки один из глобальных вопросов, который стоит перед высшим образованием не только нашей страны, но и всего мира. В частности, я хотел бы отметить, что, как уже было сказано, совсем недавно относительно в мире появилось новое течение – креативное предпринимательство. Возможно, именно это то новшество, которое поможет найти инновационные подходы к бизнесу. Только что профессором Бикмурадовым было сказано, и я дополняю это, что в более узком понимании креативное предпринимательство относится к бизнесу, которое работает в основном в рамках культурных и творческих индустрий. В разных странах эти отрасли имеют различные определения, но главное, креативное предпринимательство включает в себя области, которые основываются на культурном творчестве и развивает интеллектуальную собственность. Еще один возникает вопрос. Чем же креативное предпринимательство отличается от обычного предпринимательства или от обычного бизнеса? Зачем понадобилось вводить новые какие-то термины и понятия? Мы думаем, что все дело в том, что креативное предпринимательство в корне отличается от привычных норм работы, так как оно требует больше навыков, мобильности и способности постоянно работать над собой и учиться. Я могу с уверенностью сказать, что данный вебинар будет способствовать решению ряда вопросов по формированию и внедрению у молодежи нашей страны креативной активности и предпринимательской деятельности. Еще раз позвольте отметить, что креативное предпринимательство требует различных навыков и использования разнообразных методов работы. Основа такого предпринимательства – это интеллектуальный капитал. Проблема в этом состоит в том, что на данный момент еще не разработаны хорошие модели, позволяющие оценить реальную стоимость такого интеллектуального капитала. А это значительно будет усложнять поиск инвесторов и инвестиций в данную или ту или иную область предпринимательства. Поэтому и в числе задач высшего образования, в том числе, это быть готовыми ко всем изменениям и вызовам в бизнесе, на производстве в целом. Я хотел бы в конце поблагодарить всех модераторов и докладчиков, которые нашли время, чтобы подготовить свои речи и презентации. И особенно, конечно, наших гостей, которые, как было сказано, не пожалели и времени, и усилий. Это наши гости в основном из Великобритании. Я искренне верю, что этот вебинар по всем аспектам пройдет успешно и будет очень полезен как работникам высшего образования, так и реальному бизнесу и работодателям. Желаю всем интересного и плодотворного вебинара. Благодарю за внимание.
Спасибо большое, Уктам Пардаевич, за ваши теплые пожелания и за те очень важные вопросы, которые вы сегодня перед нами поставили. Я уверена, что в ходе обсуждения мы какие-то вопросы охватим, а какие-то вопросы, может быть, станут предметом следующих вебинаров. Спасибо вам большое. А сейчас я хочу предоставить слово директору Британского совета в Узбекистане Рэйчел Айланд.
Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. It's great to see so many faces I recognise and names I recognise from right across Uzbekistan and the UK. Welcome. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Rachel. I'm the British Council's Director here in Uzbekistan. I'm really delighted to participate in our Policy Dialogue webinar today, which is dedicated, as our colleagues have said, to the discussion around creative entrepreneurial education. And along with our great partners, I'd like to welcome all of you to this webinar. We've got a great diverse set of experts from higher education, from within the Creative Spark programme, other higher education project teams, business partners, academics, researchers, and some of our El-Yurt Umidi scholarship beneficiaries as well. So welcome to all of you. And thank you once again to our great partners, the Deputy Minister at the Higher and Secondary Specialised Education of the Republic of Uzbekistan, to Adham, the Director of El-Yurt Umidi, and to Uktam, the Chair of the Higher Education Council here in Uzbekistan. It's wonderful to work with partners who understand so well what we're trying to achieve, but also, more importantly, understand how we can get there together. The British Council, as you know, has been working here in Uzbekistan for 24 years now, with a current focus in the country on supporting the 2017 to 21 National Development Strategy of the country and contributing to the implementation of a whole range of educational and cultural reform partnership programmes, of which Creative Spark is one. And like many others, of course, we've had to revise and adapt our programmes in response to the COVID-19 pandemic and the changed environment in which we are all in now. And I strongly believe that creativity and entrepreneurial thinking through programs such as Creative Spark are essential to respond effectively and meaningfully to these new global challenges. Creative Spark is part of our higher education agenda. It's a 5-year initiative, and it's aimed at supporting international university and institutional partnerships to develop enterprise skills and creative economy. And it works across 7 countries in Central Asia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and in South Caucasus and Ukraine, working with the UK. The programme in Uzbekistan has, of course, been developed to respond to the national reforms in the economy and education here, and to support the national creative sector and the demand for entrepreneurship training leading to job creation and development of the economy. And we have 6 partnerships in development to date between Uzbekistan and the UK, working with Goldsmiths and UCL. Good to see you, Gerald and others. I can't see everyone on the screen. There's so many of you. London South Bank University, Queen Margaret University, the London Metropolitan University, University of Leicester, and University of Central Lancashire. And also other agencies, Change School, I think I saw Viren somewhere, and People First. And all of these organisations and institutions are there to give young people the opportunity to develop the skills that are required to compete in the global job market. And these partnerships aim to boost creative enterprise education, to establish innovation hubs and expose students to the rigours of business development thinking and to develop their skills. And it's been a pleasure for me over the past 2 years of working with this programme and in Uzbekistan to see some of the ideas that have come out and how the students that have been working with you all have developed their thinking and begun to get into business. Just also to say that the UN, of course, has recognised the creative economy as being one of the most rapidly growing sectors of the world economy. And Adham, the director of the El-Yurt Umidi Foundation, always reminds us of the bigger economic picture, so thank you for that. It does contribute significantly to the UK's GDP and to the education sector in the UK as well. And I'm sure I don't need to tell you that evidence shows that with the right partnerships, with dynamic networks, the right capacity and a rigorous use of data and research, the creative industries really can spearhead economic and social change. Last year, Uzbekistan signed up for the Convention on the Protection and Promotion of the Diversity of Cultural Expressions. And this was announced at last week's UNESCO's General Conference. So that's also another indication of how important it is in Uzbekistan as well. So in this regard, the education sector plays a vital role in the integrated approach of developing creative economy by responding to emerging initiatives and implementing entrepreneurial education in countries at all levels. So you are all doing fantastic work, and I look forward to today's conversation where we're going to discuss very important topics about how this education sector can further respond to the market needs. Thank you again to our partners, to all of you, our participants, to your great work and your expertise, and I wish you well today. Thank you.
Спасибо большое, Рэйчел, за такой важный обзор общего контекста для развития креативной экономики и для развития креативного образования в мировом масштабе и в Узбекистане. Спасибо большое всем, кто сегодня присутствовал на открытии нашего важного мероприятия. И сейчас мы переходим к важной части обсуждения важных вопросов, которые мы поставили целью для сегодняшнего вебинара. Я бы хотела сказать, что у нас здесь функция есть чат-бокс. Это секция, где можно оставлять вопросы, которые мы суммируем и передадим нашему фасилитатору, и мы постараемся как можно на большее количество вопросов ответить. Кроме этого, мы оставим в этом чат-боксе, в этом отделе в Zoom, мы поставим ссылочку для ваших отзывов о мероприятии и о ваших дальнейших предложениях по поводу такого рода вебинаров. А сейчас я передаю слово фасилитатору этой нашей дискуссии, ректору Университета мировой экономики и дипломатии Камильджан Хамидовичу Каримову. Пожалуйста.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning and good afternoon, distinguished the speakers, distinguished panelists, distinguished participants of this event. And I understand we have quite a large number of participants today from different parts of Uzbekistan, from UK, and from a number of other countries. So very welcome to this very interesting event. And I'm really pleased to be with you. I wish to thank the organizers of this event for inviting me and for opportunity to facilitate and to speak to this distinguished audience. So it is my pleasure, of course. And Jamila has just introduced myself, and in a minute I will also invite a group of the prominent experts who are invited to this event as the panelists, and I will ask them to introduce themselves. But before that, I wish to thank our distinguished the speakers who laid very good ground for our discussions. They covered the number of topics of including the importance of creative industry for the economy, its growing role for the global economy, the role of education sector in development of creative entrepreneurial the sector. So all of these were very much covered by our distinguished speakers. So I'm not going to speak about this. Instead, I will just want to say a few words about the objectives of our webinar. What are we going to achieve this afternoon? Actually, we have a number of objectives, and the key one is actually to share and explain the processes involved in developing creative entrepreneurial education in the UK and in Uzbekistan. And we'll also try to unpack key approaches to issues such as program, curriculum development, things like the quality assurance and enhancement in the creative entrepreneurial education. And we will also try to understand key features of UK's creative and enterprise education, as we have a number of our panelists from UK universities and other institutions. So those are the key objectives we're going to achieve. And with this, I would like to move on, and I will first introduce myself very briefly. As Jamila said, I am currently Director of University of World Economy and Diplomacy, but I'm just 2 weeks in this position. Before that, I spent 5.5 years as a Rector of Westminster International University in Tashkent. And I think that is the reason why I'm invited here, because the Westminster International is also a university which is has a strategic partner in the UK, the University of Westminster. And we also have some relation to creative entrepreneurial education at Westminster International University. We had a number of subjects and modules they're related to creative industries, but also I will reveal the secret to the participants. University is now preparing a new degree program at master's level in creative industries management, and hopefully it will be validated and will be offered to students in Uzbekistan and wider region from the next academic year. So therefore we have a little bit expertise in this matter, and I believe that is the reason why I was targeted by the British Council to facilitate this session. So with this, I would like now to invite our prominent experts who will be also participating as a panelist in this discussion. And I would like to invite first Lindsay Cole from London South Bank University to briefly introduce yourself. Please, Lindsay.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lindsay Cole. I am the Director of Research, Enterprise and Innovation at London South Bank University. I'm delighted to be part of the panel of experts today, and I look forward to an interesting discussion. At the university, I oversee our enterprise education work, and I've been working in Uzbekistan for the past 2 years with two universities and Change School on a project from Creative Spark. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome, Lindsay. So next, the panelist is Sean Prime from Goldsmiths, University of London. Please, Sean.
Hi, thanks as well for including us. Really delighted to re-engage with my colleagues from Uzbekistan and to be part of this discussion, a broader discussion. So at Goldsmiths, I'm the academic lead for enterprise, and I'm also the deputy director of our Institute for Creative and Cultural Entrepreneurship. We've been involved for 2 years. It feels both longer and shorter amount of time because of the depth of our engagement in Creative Spark and in co-creating new curriculum for the Uzbekistan context. I'm looking forward to hearing what everyone has to say about this.
Thanks a lot, Sean. Thank you for accepting this invitation. And next, the panelist is Natasha Try from London Metropolitan University. Please, Natasha, over to you.
Hi, assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for having me here this morning. I'm representing Chris Lane from London Metropolitan University, and my role in the university is Student Enterprise Manager. So I help students and graduates set up businesses. We've been doing Creative Spark for a couple of years now. My first trip to Tashkent was actually 2 years ago this weekend, and it's been fantastic to see the progress over this time. I've been working in London for about 8 years at a couple of universities. Before that, I set up a social enterprise in Scotland. Really pleased to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks a lot, Natasha. So our next panelist is Paresh Parmar from University of Central Lancashire. Please, Paresh, over to you.
Siba. Hello, I'm Paresh Parmar. I'm from the University of Central Lancashire. I'm the Deputy Head of Business and Partnership for the School of Arts and Media. I've been in this role for about a year. Prior to this, I used to manage the fashion promotion course, which used to take on fashion-related brands and escalate them into new businesses. And I feel that the synergies between us and our partners enable us to participate in this data in the appropriate manner. I'm really looking forward to the discussions, and I'm really pleased to be here. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Paresh. And we also have with us Viren Lowell from the Change School. Over to you, Viren.
Thank you very much, Rector Kamal John. I'm Viren. I'm the Managing Director of Change School, an organization that started its journey as a joint venture just over 5 years ago with the belief that knowledge and skills can really dramatically change society. And it stands for bringing elite education to everyone. We are here today. We deliver postgraduate programs in the UK and abroad, and we do faculty development programs in 22 countries. Personally, I am responsible for our partnerships in Central Asia, Southeast Asia, and Latin America. And through our work, we're delighted to report that faculty from Malaysia and Egypt are reporting back that we have really changed their teaching practice. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Viren. And we also have two participants who represent different institutions of Uzbekistan. And the first one, with pleasure, I would like to call on Madina Badalova from Art and Culture Development Foundation. Please, Madina.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this webinar. This is really an honor for me to be here with such high-level specialists. And I'm the head of education development and inclusive programs development.
Madina, we can't hear you.
Projects, and apart from different kind of international projects, we do run grants programs for students. That's why we deal a lot with very developed institutions in the area of culture, and as well with young specialists. And I hope that today we will have a chance to share some experience and knowledge within this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Madina, for introducing yourself, and welcome to this discussion. And then I would like with pleasure to invite my colleague, Rector of Tashkent State University of Economics, Dr. Kongrat Sharipov, to introduce himself.
Assalomu alaykum, hurmatli anjuman qatnashchilari. Avvalambor ushbu onlayn konferensiyani tashkil etgan tashkilotchilarga chuqur minnatdorchilik bildirmoqchiman. Bizning universitetimiz 2017-yildan beri Britaniya kengashi va London Metropolitan Universiteti bilan hamkorlikda Creative Spark Big Idea Challenge dasturini amalga oshirib kelmoqda. Mana shu muddatda bizning bir qator professor o'qituvchilarimiz Britaniyaning London Metropolitan Universitetiga malaka oshirib kelishdi. Bu yerda Accelerator biznes sentrlari bilan hamkorlikda ishlar olib bormoqda. Yana bundan tashqari yoshlarni qo'llab-quvvatlash tadbirkorlik g'oyalarini ro'yobga oshirishga qaratilgan loyiha va tanlovlar pandemiya sharoitida ham davom ettirildi va O'zbekiston Respublikasi Oliy ta'lim vazirligi, Britaniya kengashi va London Metropolitan universitetlari tomonidan tashkil etilgan onlayn tarzdagi Creative Spark Big Idea Challenge'ning yakuniy natijalari ko'ra universitetning talabasi bu konkursni g'olibi bo'lib e'lon qilindi. Dastur shuningdek Buyuk Britaniya tajribasi asosida yoshlarning ijodiy tadbirkorlik ko'nikmalarini oliy ta'lim jarayonida shakllantirish va rivojlantirib borib, mamlakatimizda tanlov ishtirokchilarining yangi loyihalari, g'oyalarini innovatsion raqobatbardosh korxonalar tashkil etish orqali amalga oshirishni ko'zga tutadi. Bundan tashqari ushbu loyiha doirasida London Metropolitan Universitetining Creating a Winning Business Model kursi birinchi kurs talabalariga ikkinchi semestrdan boshlab tanlov fan asosida kiritildi. Bunda ushbu modul to'liq mazmun jihatidan kiritilib, ushbu fan orqali talabalarimiz o'z biznes g'oyalarini amalga oshirishda o'z hissalarini qo'shadi. Kelajakda biz Buyuk Britaniyaning London Metropolitan Universiteti bilan Market Research, ya'ni bozor iqtisodiyoti kursi treningini tashkil etib, unda talabalarimizni hamda professor o'qituvchilarimizni bu jarayonga faol ishtirokini ta'minlanadi va natijada tadbirkorlik faoliyati tashkil etishda o'zining hissasini qo'shadi. Rahmat e'tiborlaringiz uchun.
Katta rahmat, Murodboy aka. So colleagues, I think all our panelists introduced themselves, and now we can move to the discussion. Obviously, we anticipate your questions, but you will be able, as it was announced already, you will be able to post your questions through our chat, and then we will consolidate those questions and try to respond to most frequently asked questions from our participants. But now I have also prepared a few questions to our panel members, and I would like to start with the first question, which is about the key drivers for developing creative and entrepreneurial education in the UK. So what are those key drivers? And I would like to ask this question from Lindsay, if you can share your thoughts on this, please.
Thank you. So from my perspective, as well as national policy drivers, our key drivers for entrepreneurial education are local ones. So my university, London South Bank University, is located in London, the capital city. But we are a university that is a strong part of our South London community, with many of our students living and working in South London. This means that not only do they study with us, but they want to get jobs and start businesses in their communities on graduation. The university was founded to support that goal of supporting local skills and local growth. And this is still really important for us today and is a big driver of our entrepreneurship work. Many of our students are mature students who often come to us with work experience. And many of our students study part-time and work alongside their studies. Almost 7,000 of our students are sponsored by employers, which means that what we teach and how we teach needs to be relevant to industry and meet local skills needs. Entrepreneurship skills are therefore really important to my university. We need to make sure that our curriculum is up to date and industry relevant, and we need to develop students to develop those entrepreneurship skills, such as becoming problem solvers, creative thinkers, and leaders. This will allow them to build a business or a career for themselves, and crucially secure an income and a lifestyle that they can control for themselves independently. Therefore, the work I do at my university in terms of enterprise and entrepreneurship education is both included in our curriculum and a big part of our extracurricular offer for our students. This includes activities like internships with small companies, startup support to allow a student to explore an idea for a company or a social enterprise, and inspirational programs to help them to develop their skills and mindset. As a result of this work, it makes the university support local people to succeed in what they do, whether that is about giving them entrepreneurial skills for employment or to start their own ventures in the future. That's my perspective on local drivers, and I hope that's a useful start to the discussion. Thank you.
Yes, thanks a lot, Lindsay, for sharing your thoughts on this. And I know that the Change School, as it was already said by Viren, is very much engaged in capacity building in this particular area. So what are your thoughts, actually, Viren, on the same question? So what do you think are the key drivers for developing the creative and entrepreneurial education in UK from the opportunity perspective? Please, Viren, over to you.
Thank you very much, Rector. And I'd like to pick up from what Lindsay said, which, in her work and her, focus is institutional and within the community. If you take a more macro perspective, and Professor Adkam mentioned this, even in China, which seems to be very tech-driven, 85% more of the contribution comes from work that's done in the creative sector. And in large economies, that figure is as high as 17% contribution to the GDP. In the UK, also it reached over 100 billion. It's a combination of two things. One is, does the industry actually allow that opportunity to exist? And the second part is, how does education then go ahead and fulfill the need out there? So for me, the fact is that, first is a recognition that actually creative industry is as large as you can imagine it to be out there. For a long time, we tend to get fixated on incremental science. And it's this thinking that has to grow beyond invention to innovation to commercialization. And I use the word creative entrepreneurship as a catch-all to take that really to the market. And I think that's the potential for nations to sort of take that and get that, get this done. I also believe that the digital allows us to make it happen more equitably and removes a lot of barriers for the young generation to adopt this new mindset and get their thinking and get their value across out there. And the goal is to create, a sustainable and a fair and a just society through those means.
Thanks a lot, Viren. Yes, I think UK is a good example in terms of, the using of creative, the industry for the development of economy, right? And the creative sector plays a key role in the UK economy. But I think equally, Uzbekistan is culturally extremely rich country, with and both in terms of the tangible and intangible heritage, and with number of objects, tangible and intangible heritage objects inscribed into UNESCO's the World Heritage List, So, but I believe that that potential is not underutilized at this moment, but therefore there is a huge potential, in fact, to develop this sector. And obviously, UK's experience will be the very, very good the example for us to learn from, And the follow-on on this, I would like to ask the panelists another question. As we speak about the creative entrepreneurial education, the key role in this, of course, plays the proper programs and curriculum. And I would like to ask our panelists how development of new programs and curriculum has been approached and what are the key learning points. And I would like to ask this question from the Paresh Parmar from University of Central Lancashire. Please, Paresh.
Thank you for the question. To me, it's quite a specific one, and we focused on our USP. So we have quite a few synergies with Tashkent and Titley. Preston, which is where the university is based around the cotton industry, a very old cotton industry, and we're used to making textiles and fabrics, and it's something that sort of really aligns with our partner, which is the Tashkent Institute of Textile and Light Industry. And it's for this reason that we aligned. Both Titley and UCLan have a great synergy for fashion. And like Titley, we want to contribute to the local economy through specialist education. So what we can do is we can move beyond manufacturing and add into the fashion industry via the new mechanisms that the students and the new target market require. So although our manufacturing industry has now disappeared, the need for smaller brands, bespoke tailors is starting to grow, and the economy is starting to grow back using a lot of the heritage elements. This has brought rapid growth in the fashion industries where we are. And what we've learned is we can use some of our heritage and inspire the students to start new businesses. We've had the course of fashion promotion for over 50 years, and this evolves with the market's needs, and specifically within fashion. We know that the industry is worth 26 billion in the UK, and it provides about 800,000 jobs. But the key learning is how it evolves, and how do we track that key learning? And we do this through working with business gateways. So we need to understand what the local economy needs. We need to be talking to the local businesses. We need to be boosting our student experience and making sure our academics are engaging with research activities that fall in line with the needs of the local economy and the USP of both Preston and Titley. The benefits of this is the students get a guided route to the industry. They understand exactly what the businesses want because they are working in partnership with the courses at the institutes. The students end up working and delivering on projects, on real life projects, and doing placement with these companies. And the academics bring a start to end project, so they understand the full entity of what takes place in the local economy as well. It really changes the mindset, and we found this to be a real benefit in approaching the whole development of the program in this manner.
Thanks a lot, Paresh, for sharing your thoughts on this. And obviously, you know, the success of the creative industry very much relies on the capacity building and therefore on education. But for this sector to take off and to fly, I think what is also important is to support the experimentation, right, in this field, the support of the startups and, you know, incubators and things like that. And therefore, I know that our another panelist, Natasha, has a great experience in supporting such projects, and I would like to invite Natasha to share the experience. And actually, my question to you, Natasha, is what do you think actually the success factors beyond the successful startup and incubator projects in the field of creative the industries? So please, over to you.
Thank you so much for the question. And I'll just go back to when we first started our journey in Uzbekistan, which was actually prior to the Creative Spark programme. And I think a real success that began then was myself and my colleague Chris. We took a group of 15 university staff and we shared our programmes, our experience, the models that we used and our workshops. So we used the train the trainer model. And during this initial week, we really spent time understanding culture, education, and adapting our programs for the relevant area. And we were able to take almost 1,000 students through this process. So I think it's really important for capacity building, for partnership working, and providing local ownership of this development. And I would say a key here is supporting the staff and enabling them to deliver the workshops and to listening to what their needs are, their challenges are, not just when we were in Tashkent working, but actually throughout these previous 2 years and working very closely together. So for me, looking at how far Uzbekistan has come now in the current context, I just wanted to say that I think it's fantastic there's been a reform of higher education curriculum, and we're really excited to be working within this new context. Universities having more freedom to design their own curriculum, I think, is really important, having that local ownership. And I do believe that this localization and policy change will positively impact, and it will be vital to the success of developing entrepreneurships in students, in staff, and right across Uzbekistan. So also learning from the UK, the universities there, I would say we don't experience the same levels of autonomy, and framework conditions really vary. And I think it's really important to share best practice, dissemination of information, and I think guidelines are really helpful. I know in London we share a lot of the work that we do together to understand how we can actually work better and share our practices. So I think decentralization is really fantastic and important for local areas. For example, London has got a really broad ecosystem of startups, and where I was initially from, in Scotland, and I left about 8 years ago, it's so different, and you can apply this locally, globally, and really understanding what's important to the area. And what I've learned is that you're the experts of your area, so let's work together to achieve something even more important. And I want to move on to actually the introduction of this credit approach in the curriculum in Uzbekistan, allowing the introduction of optional modules. As a result of this, it's been possible to embed a module that allows entrepreneurship in the curriculum into a formal assessment structure. So we've been working with Tashkent State University of Economics, collaboration with our colleagues Nazima Zafarova and the rector Kongrat Sharapov. And it's been fantastic to be able to build on the experience we've learned at London Met University with a module that we call Creating a Winning Business, which was mentioned earlier. We developed this with the School of Business and Law, really important to collaborate on these subjects. It's interdisciplinary and it's the most popular selected module at the university. We have about 400 students each semester selecting this module. We use lean methodologies to validate business ideas. And it's really a key success in this is allowing the students to come to our off-campus accelerator. We've got 30 high-growth tech startups, and they're able to ask questions to the founders that have lived this real-life entrepreneur journey. And that's a really successful part, an important part of the module. So I'm really proud to have seen how far Uzbekistan has come these last 2 years, and really excited to be here today and just to see where Uzbekistan goes from here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Natasha, for sharing your views on this. And yes, I wish success for your partnership and collaboration with your Uzbek partners. And I'm sure part of this success is your great experience, in developing such projects. So thanks a lot. And now I would like to, with pleasure, invite my colleagues, Madina first from Art and Culture Development Foundation. And when I was with Westminster International, we worked with this foundation, and I know that the foundation is actually works with both parts, supply part. They work with the universities and institutions who actually engage in capacity development for this sector, but they also work with the demand side. They work with the service providers, with museums, art halls, the craftsmen, and so on and so on. So, and I think the Madina is well placed to respond to the following question. Madina, I would like to ask you, what do you think, what are the skill gaps in Uzbekistan when it comes to the creative, the industry? So I'm sure you're well placed to respond to this. Please, Madina.
Thank you very much for this introduction, Mr. Karimov. As you mentioned, we did have a very good experience of working together with you, and we are now continuing our collaboration with the Westminster International University in Tashkent, specifically on the program of creative industries development. And as we work a lot with different kind of projects, starting from exhibitions, finishing with different kind of educational training programs. And the mission of the foundation is quite broad. And we work a lot with the local institutions, as well as we do have a lot of foreign institution engaged projects, collaborations. And this gives us a very, I would say, a very good practical view in terms of understanding the gaps and the lack of skills that we are missing now within the sector and within the educational sphere as well, because we do study programs of different local universities and we do compare them with the programs of different foreign universities, especially UK partners, because we do have two different consortiums with Goldsmith University and Queen Margaret University, and this gives us a very good view of the situation. So what I would firstly say is that starting from this year, I think what we really did face is the response of the sector to the pandemic and how we are prepared to the stressful situations. And this really gave us the view on how we are well prepared in terms of digital tools and experience in, in innovative programs. So what I would say is that apart from higher education institutional approach, I would say that specialists were kind of not prepared for the situation, but because of the, the collaboration and different training programs, we were able to develop different online programs and online platforms, which is, I think, came up as the response to the pandemic. Another thing I would say is that most of the students that finish the universities, most of them, they do lack the interdisciplinary skills, what the Creative Spark program really helps to fill in, because what the good side of these consortiums is that there is always one institution, one higher education institution is engaged, which gives us the opportunity to work apart from the higher education institution. The actual, as you said, service provider is engaged. So you can actually have this opportunity to fill in the gaps in the program, and you have the opportunity to tell the service provider what they are lacking as well. So this is a very good opportunity as well for the institutions like the foundation and other institutions and higher education institutions to develop their programs and come to good results. Apart from this, I would say that in our practical view, it's also very important to engage more specialists, museum workers, museum staff, theater staff to the programs as well, because when we concentrate a lot on higher education institutions, of course it's very important because it's the most flexible people that can be educated, and this is the easiest way to prepare the new generation that can work very well in different kind of situation, be creative. But on the other hand, it's also important to acknowledge the this knowledge that the specialists already have, and kind of integrate these new innovative ideas and this entrepreneurial skills to the program and to the structure of the existing museums and theaters, because this is very important in audience development, in actually making these institutions more modern and more acceptable for the audience. So this is pretty much this, I would say, but it's really good that we have this kind of webinars where we can actually discuss, and because there are different institutions engaged, it really gives us the view, each view can be considered, and this gives a very good results. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Madina. You have, I think, flagged number of important issues, including, the impact of the current pandemic on the sector, but I believe we will come back to this question in a few minutes, right? But now I would like to invite my colleague, Dr. Sharipov from Tashkent State University of Economics to our discussion. And I think in his introduction, Dr. Sharipov has briefly described the university's the engagement with UK, the partners in developing new programs in the field of creative entrepreneurial education. So if you can elaborate a little bit more, Dr. Sharipov, about your partnership, what are the key features, and what is the future for creative entrepreneurial education in Uzbekistan, please.
Rahmat savolingiz uchun. Mana 2 yil davomida biz London Metropolitan Universiteti bilan hamkorlikda ishda bormoqdamiz. Endi ikkita yo'nalishda hozir ish bormoqda. Birinchi yo'nalish bu mana shu London Metropolitan Universiteti professori Chris Lane bilan birgalikda tadbirkorlikni muhitini shakllantirish bo'yicha treninglar o'tkazdik va bu treninglarga asosan o'qituvchilarimiz va talabalarimiz qatnashdi. Asosiy maqsad mana shu talabalarni o'qish jarayonida birgalikda tadbirkorlik muhitini shakllantirish, bu kreativ fikrlash bo'yicha o'zining muhim tajribasi bilan almashdi va natijada mana shu bizning universitetimizda 40 ga yaqin startup proyektlar taklif etildi talabalar tomonidan mana shu treningga qatnashdi va bunda mana shu London Metropolitan Universitetining ekspertlarini faol qatnashganini va ularning kelajakda ham bizga o'zining qimmatli maslahatlari bilan qatnashganini alohida ta'kidlab o'tmoqchi edim va ularga rahmat deb qo'ymoqchiman. Endi buning natijasida bizlar buni kengroq rivojlantirdik va universitetda biznes inkubator tashkil etdik va biznes inkubatorda endi kengroq butun universitetimiz jamoasi mana shu London Metropolitan Universiteti ko'rsatgan ko'rsatmalar natijasida startaplar loyihasi bilan ishlar olib bormoqda. Endi ikkinchi yo'nalishimiz bizda o'quv jarayonini ishlab chiqarish bilan yaqinlashtirish. Bunda talabalarimiz bir paytda o'zida universitetda o'qish bilan universitetni bitirayotgan paytda o'zida biznes loyihalar bilan chiqish kerak va buning uchun biz birinchi kursimizni o'zidayoq yuqorida ekspertlarimiz aytib ketdi, bitta modul kiritdik. Bu modulimiz yani tadbirkorlikni shakllantirish bilan bog'liq bo'lgan bo'ladi va ular universitetimizda bir semestr davomida talabalar tomonidan o'qitiladi va buni natijasida bizda nafaqat mana shu professor o'qituvchilarimiz bu fanni o'zlashtirish natijasida o'zlari bilan bitta loyihani talabalarga ko'rsatadi va talabalarimiz ham bu modulni bitirgan paytda o'zining konkret loyihasi bitta tashkilotga biriktirilgan loyihasi bilan qatnashib o'zining kelajakdagi biznesini tashkil etadi. Umuman mana shu qilinayotgan ishlarning oxir oqibati bizdagi universitetimizda mana shu hozirgi raqobatbardosh universitetlar qatorida qo'shilishga imkoniyat beradi. Ham kelajakda bitiruvchilarimizni ish topish masalasida, ishga joylashish masalasida katta yordam ko'rsatadi. Kelajakdagi rejalarimiz shulardan iboratki, mana hozir bozorni o'rganib, ya'ni market resource degan masalasida aytdik. Bizga birgalikda endi London Metropolitan Universiteti bilan hamkorlikda ishni boshlaymiz. Bu 20-21 yillardagi bizning rejamiz va reja asosida xudo xolasa mana har bir talaba tadbirkor degan proyektimizni biz ishga tushiryapmiz va bunda bitiruvchilarimiz kelajakda nafaqat mana shu loyihalar bilan qatnashadi, professor o'qituvchilarimiz ular hamkorlikda ilmiy tadqiqot ishlarini bajaradi va hamkorlikda maqolalar chop etishga ham kelishib olgan. Rahmat e'tiboringiz uchun.
Katta rahmat Qo'ng'irot aka. Men o'ylayman bu juda muhim hamkorlik, respublikamizda aynan shu sohani rivojlantirishda juda bir muhim hamkorlik va ushbu hamkorlikda sizlarga kelajakda muvaffaqiyatlar tilab qolamiz. Katta rahmat. Colleagues and the panelists, I think we have more or less covered the question we would like to discuss, and given the time constraint, if you don't have anything to add to what's been said already, I would like to invite our audience to send their questions to the panelists. And I have received one already from our colleagues from the British Council, and the Madina has briefly mentioned in her intervention about the impact of the current the pandemic to the sector. And I would like to ask the panel members, what do you think was the impact of the, because we know that pandemic has actually impacted all the sectors, all the countries across the world, right? But I believe the creative industry was among the hardest hit industries, along with tourism, along with the aviation and other industries, right? So, but what is, in your opinion, the future, you know, given the current context, current environment, what is the future for the sector, and how the education sector should respond to the current the pandemic and this crisis? Please, it's a question to all our members, so whoever wants to respond to this, please.
I'm going to jump in if that's okay.
Sure, Sean, please go on.
Thank you. So it's Sean here from Goldsmiths, part of the University of London. We're a college that focuses, or a university that focuses only really on creative and cultural and social sciences. So all of our focus has always been on creative development and social change. So the pandemic hit our students and our alumni incredibly hard. But actually also, of course, it's brought out some incredibly exciting, disruptive change. I don't want to belittle how hard it's been for people. People have lost incomes for sure. However, what we can see is people turning to creativity and to culture in ways that they perhaps had forgotten that they needed it. And I feel like we need to be sensitive to both sides of this, both the creators of content as well as the people who are absorbing and watching live performances that are relayed, recordings of live performances, audiobooks, such an extension through digital access in the main. At Goldsmiths, we responded very quickly and we put a call out to our alumni and to our network of supporters. And we hosted a 3-week festival over the summer on sustainable enterprise. What was interesting was we thought it would be a 2-day festival, and it was a 3-week festival because nobody said no. And we spent 3 weeks engaged in understanding how we could reinvent our industry to make it stronger, more ethical, how we could engage with innovative distribution mechanisms, and how we could look at ethically sharing access to tech to distribute. So I think it is really hard, and we should not underestimate how difficult it's been for performers, particularly music and theatre and dance, where their livelihood was taken away from them on the 17th of March in the UK. But actually what we see is that people are taking dance classes online. There is more inclusion through digital in some ways. So I think if governments can support us to get through this period and believe in the power of the creative economy, then actually we have an opportunity to reinvent the sector and bring it through in a way that represents the 21st century rather than perhaps more 19th or 20th century models of ways of doing performing and creative arts and industries.
Thanks a lot, Sean. Of course, any crisis, but especially crisis like this, of this magnitude, it poses lots of challenges and issues. But again, the crisis like this also creates lots of opportunities, and I think it also pushes us to be a bit more creative in what we're doing, right? So thank you for sharing this. But just to follow on what you have just said, and given that you directly engaged in education in this area, Sean, my follow-on question, in current context, how do you think the quality of education can be assured?
Oh gosh, really well. So I think we mustn't forget that this is face-to-face. There's been a lot of conversations about the fact that we are moving our education online. And actually that is a real strength. It changes the relationship between professor and participant, because you're in my home now and I'm in some of your houses, I'm in some of your offices. Now that can be quite awkward, but actually it's also quite a leveling space. I think I've been really aware that I've always worked hard. I've never worked so hard in my life as the last 6 months to adapt, to support, and to understand the impact. Because if I am teaching creative entrepreneurship, suddenly the business models I was reliant on have been thrown up in the air. So I'm changing my curriculum and revalidating it, but also adapting it and making it even more appropriate for this context. But actually, I think we are now learning how we can use this medium for stronger education. And I think that in itself means that we can adapt and include more people too. I recognize, again, as you say, opportunities, complexity. But actually, I think when we look back at what we've all achieved in this time and how we've disrupted education as well as the culture and creative economy, we'll come through with some really interesting ways of, I think, delivering our work with a new credibility and a new perspective, which our students will really engage with. And that too will then strengthen the resilience of the creative economy. That said, I have gone through 2 different prescriptions on my glasses because Zoom does hurt my eyes a lot,
Yes.
but that's been the only downside.
Yes, it's true, it's true. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Sean. Yeah, you know, I had my own lecture last night, and obviously I had to do it online, you know, and for people like myself who are used to traditional class, it is a challenge to adopt, you know, when you can't see your students. It is really, because the physical interaction is very important. But of course, we need to adopt because, you know, that is a circumstance. So thanks a lot, Sean. I invite now other panelists if they want to add to what Sean just said in terms of the impact of pandemic to the sector. Please.
I would just like to add on the back of that, really great to hear what you've been doing at Goldsmith. And we've been doing exactly the same. So one of our schools is art, design and architecture. And every year we will take product makers, designers to a large market in London and give them the opportunity to sell their projects. But what this has done this year is we can reimagine how we deliver and how can we optimize opportunities for our students. And I personally think it's going to be even better this year because we're going to teach them how to sell online. And it made me think, why have we never done this before? It was always training them to sell at a marketplace, but now they can take these skills that they're going to use into next year and hopefully be even more successful than they would be with one day. So I feel like there's been moments to reflect on how we deliver education, but there's the potential to make an even bigger impact. So I think it's an exciting time, although there have been challenges with it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Natasha. And I see Viren raising his hand. Please, Viren.
Yeah, thank you, Sean, and thank you, Natasha. I mean, moving from students, we have a program for academics, and these are academic entrepreneurs who are inventors in the universities. And as the original plan was, we were supposed to visit their 4 countries in June, and that all changed pretty quickly. I think for us, it was on the 16th of March, Sean. And so we went virtual, and we ran something called a virtual Accelerator program, a version of which we had run with Lindsay in Tashkent State University in NIFAD, where we send entrepreneurs out of the building to go and sort of test their ideas, go to the markets, interview customers. So we brought these people together, and the challenge, again, we ran it over 3 weeks rather than over 2 days. Was to get them to actually, from their bedrooms, and this is back to the point that Sean was making. You know, we were in their bedrooms, they were in ours, because that's where they were operating from. actually extend their businesses by making calls, setting up appointments, running surveys, and they all did that online. And the realization for us was that actually, if we run programs in the future, they are going to be virtual first, and physical is a bonus rather than saying, hey, it's not as good enough out there. And the one point I want to reflect, which really I am so impressed today, because I could not imagine that a few of us from UK and so many people from Uzbekistan would be on a video conference, over 250 people with cameras on, with the ability to communicate with each other. This was unimaginable a year ago. And I think we are going to now take this as a standard going forward and having either a discussion or education. And this is going to be the future.
Absolutely, absolutely, Viren. I agree with you. And I see Madina raising her hand, please.
Just to sum up what my colleague said previously, I would probably agree with Sean that we have to be very sensitive and we have to be very careful in speaking about the outcomes of the pandemic, because there are lots of people who got hurt. And the situation, I think, really touched us, everyone personally. But on the other hand, I think what it did, it brought up the opportunities that were nearby that we were not using before. And because in Uzbekistan, museums and theaters and different cultural institutions, especially educational institutions, were really concentrated on the offline education, offline programs, what I think is the vice versa for the European countries, because most European countries were already using the opportunities of online, different online events and online educational programs. It really speeded up the process of development, because in 1 year time, I think Uzbekistan achieved enormous development in this area. And this really brought up a lot of ideas that were on the bottom. And for example, a couple of days ago, we had an interview for the grant program where we had lots of very, very talented students who did have their own programs that were developed, projects that were developed in response to the pandemic. And these are really the opportunities that I think will be used afterwards when we do have the opportunity to do the offline programs as well. I think we shall keep this, as Sean said, we need to keep this medium, because this gives us very good development. It gives us very good development, not only for the museums, but also for the higher education institutions. So this is like, for example, you can have different university engaged programs, diplomas, you can have different online exhibitions, but these can also live and stay within our life, even when we have the offline programs already integrated. So this is a very good opportunity as well, apart from the, of course, from the very, very strong hit that brought the pandemic as well.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Madina. But just to share with colleagues on our own experience here in Uzbekistan, of course, many universities here had to switch to online, delivery just overnight, and I think those who had a better infrastructure in place, who had experience, who had a capacity already with the teaching staff, they did it seamlessly, but in any way, I'm sure I agree with most of my colleagues here. The future is for a blended learning. Even pandemic has gone, we will obviously use many of the things we have learned during this year, but because it makes our life easier probably, and it also quite flexible for students and for teaching staff. And I'm sure the things we learned to stay with us in future. So is there any other views on this, colleagues, if anyone wants to add? No? Okay, then I suggest that because our time is limited, and I think we're very much on time, but I don't see any other questions so far sent to us by participants. I only see the thanks from them, you know, for your interventions. But just to wrap up, I would like to invite all our speakers for the final, the takeaway message, one key message you would like to take with you from this discussion. So we start with probably with Dr. Sharipov first in reverse order.
Мы получили очень ценные рекомендации по итогам сегодняшней онлайн-конференции. Я думаю, все полученные информации мы обработаем и включим в свою и учебную программу, и тренинги, и других наших совместных работах с другими университетами. Спасибо за внимание.
Katta rahmat, Qonrat aka. Madina, would you like to add a few words as well, please?
Just to sum up what we said today is, I would say that in response to the program and in response to the development of the Creative Spark program and this 2 years that the program has been running, I would say that probably the most educational, the educational institutions and the programs and the structure will respond to the pandemic and will respond to the today's need, because this digital intervention really did create the new interdisciplinary professions that will be needed in the future for the sector. And I'm sure that many things will change from now on, and the education, higher education sector, as well as the training programs, will be really adapted to these needs in the future. And as you mentioned, this will be with us from now on, and we will be using all the opportunities that the pandemic really showed us, because it really demonstrated what we can do and what we need to that hasn't been really developed before. And I really wish the Creative Spark program in this sense success, because I'm sure that it will be taking into account all these needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Madina. So Viren, over to you.
Thank you, Kamaljan. I see creative entrepreneurship, almost as a leadership or a leadership skill development opportunity, because, it's about the young taking charge, connecting the dots, building networks, bringing in stakeholders, increasing their influence, problem solving, becoming ambassadors, role models. And, they're there to create an inclusive society. And I'd like to reflect on something that Sean said, that, when they had the 3-week festival, we can look at digital as a means to say that even if, when we create IP, digital, because it allows us scale, also allows us to charge out a very fair fees on a very nominal basis so that people are willing to pay. So we can create a sustainable industry by making it affordable to a much larger society. So that's the power of digital. The one note, of caution that I still have is that we've seen the student community in Uzbekistan really embrace innovation and entrepreneurship through the wonderful work that British Council have done through Creative Spark, and London Met has put the programs across to do the Big Idea Challenge. So they've really gone and showed that they can be innovative, creative, and as creative as anybody else in the world. What we do want to make sure is that the industry, the government, the ministries also create the space for them to land, so that they have the opportunities to do the jobs and to show their creativity and show their innovation when they move into the industry. So that we just want to make sure that they also have a landing spot for those kind of opportunities. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Viren. So I would like to invite Paresh now, if you would like to say a few final words, Paresh.
Sure, yeah, thank you very much. I support everything that Viren's just said. I totally back that. And I think the other bit that I would add to what Viren's comments were was to collaborate a little bit more with the local business, understand the market needs, make sure that your university is open to working with local businesses, be socially aware of what takes place in the community, stay in touch with the businesses, leverage the social media in that area as well, understand what the students are doing, understand what the businesses are doing, understand the economy through the modern means as well. and try and have a business on the advisory board. So when you're writing new curriculum, you are aware of their market needs. And I think that's the bit that I would like to add on to what Viren mentioned there.
Thanks a lot, Paresh. Now, Natasha, would you like to say a few words at the end? Yeah, please.
Hi, thank you. So I would say my one takeaway from this work that we've been doing in the context of Uzbekistan, making institutional level strategies and priorities, as well as the concrete plans for operating, was really critical to the success of our international partnership working. And really, as partners, understanding and integrating with these institutional priorities has been really important. I think because that gives a greater sense of ownership of strategy from the top to the bottom of higher education institutions. And also for me personally, reflecting on London Metropolitan University and the programmes that we've been running during this time and now going forwards, it's been really important to reflect and also align what we do with the university strategy, be transparent, have clear communication with all the schools across the university so that we can really achieve more together, especially during this time. Thank you, Rahmat.
Rahmat, Natasha, thanks a lot. So now, Sean, yeah, would you like to say a few words?
I would love to, but I won't say much because I recognize we're slightly on or over time. The only thing to add to everything that everybody has said is I think the reason we could adapt so quickly is because we had industry and we had been innovating in our curriculum. It's the only way to deliver creative and cultural entrepreneurship. I would add that the fantastic benefit of Creative Spark for my students, hopefully our students as well as staff, is a global economy is so clearly important and more important and more possible at the moment, and understanding how we can not only make connections around education but make connections around distribution and supply is also really important. So I would say we should remember that we're not just looking at an educational model, but we're opening our students to new markets and new perspectives and new ways of doing business within that educational model. So it's a phenomenally powerful experience to be part of this network.
Thanks a lot, Sean. And now, Lindsay, please, over to you.
Thank you. My final reflection would just be about recognising the importance of your ecosystem and those organisations that are around you. So many of us work in universities or higher education institutions, and we can learn the most, as we've discovered today, from each other. So I think if you are doing this work, build that network and engage with it and seek value from it. And do not be afraid to ask for help, because when you ask for help, it is often forthcoming and can really help give you a fresh perspective on a challenge you may be facing. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, the colleagues, panelists, and I think I will just join, the participants, and you will see this in the chat. They're all thanking the panelists for sharing the great ideas. I know it was, for me, it was a real pleasure to be with you and to listen to your great ideas. And of course, now the last 6-7 months, the keywords are, lockdown, isolation, and distancing. But I think this is a great the example how we can do things together, and creativity really unlocks, lots of things. And so let's stay creative. Let's stay together. Let's stay, let's collaborate more. So with this, I think I've done my part. I would like to hand over back to our hosts, to Jamila, and if she would like to say a few words. Over to you, Jamila.
Thank you very much. I just want to say a big thank you to all our partners on our project, but also all our partners on making this webinar such a big success. I would like, of course, to thank all our panelists and our excellent facilitator and our interpreter, so that, you know, I think it was an excellent example of teamwork. And of course, to thank all the participants for their active participation and their interest and commitment to work together. So I think all of you have said that only in connected way we can achieve what we want to achieve. And what a wonderful opportunity to work in international partnerships to make all the dreams come true. So thank you very much, and I'm sure we will meet again very soon.
Thanks a lot, Jamila. So I think we're closing now, and thank you all the members, you know, of the panel, and thanks to all the participants of this, all students, researchers who joined us this afternoon. So thanks a lot, colleague. See you in the future. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.